It doesn't happen like that. It was very cold outside. The January frost was getting stronger day by day. The wind intensified the effect, and there wasn't a single dog in the square. The animals were hiding somewhere in sheltered places. People, on the other hand, couldn't stay at home. They were hurrying to work. Amid the snowstorm, in an autumn coat, stood a young woman. She was 32 years old, and her name was Catherine. A long black braid fell down her back. Slim, beautiful, but without gloss or makeup, she moved from one thoroughly frozen passerby to another. "Let me tell your fortune. I do it well. I'll tell you the whole truth," Catherine said. But the passers-by just curtly refused, hurrying on their way. She was cold, and going into a shop had become inconvenient. She had already entered there 4 times since the morning. The shop assistants glared at her, fearing that they might soon have to call the police. Catherine approached another passerby. "Let me tell your fortune. I can help with a problem with your wife. I'll tell you the whole truth." The man stopped for a second, frowned. "You think your wife isn't faithful?" Catherine asked. "Give me your hand." "How much for the fortune-telling?" he asked. Catherine sighed. "Whatever you want to give, you decide." The man hesitantly extended his hand to her. Her palm was icy. Catherine could hardly feel her fingers. "You love your wife, and she has been cheating on you all your life." "Oh, sorry, I made a mistake." She blushed, but the man nodded, confirming her words. "Then I have some news for you," she continued. "You're trying to save a ship that has already sunk, you understand? I'm sorry to tell you this, it must be painful to hear. But you'll be very happy, and you will love again." The man nodded and left, and Catherine sighed. Sometimes, it was hard for her to say what she felt to people. She didn't use cards for fortune-telling. She simply approached a person, looked them in the eyes, and as if by some inner vision, she saw their emotions and experiences. The closer she got, the deeper these feelings opened to her. Catherine grew up in a village with her grandmother. Her parents were military and often left, deciding that it would be better for her this way. Until the 7th grade, they took her with them to military towns, and Catherine rarely saw her friends. Books were her constant companions. Her grandmother was surprised that her granddaughter read Dostoevsky at such a young age, and even gave her lipstick, allowing her to go to the disco. But Catherine didn't go there either. She missed her parents and spent all her free time reading books. Meanwhile, her grandmother didn't live solely on her pension. She treated people, told fortunes, and when there were no clients, she and Catherine just played cards. "But can you play with the deck you use for fortune-telling?" Catherine asked. "The girls at school told me you can't." "You can," her grandmother smiled. "I only cover myself with the cards. I see what's inside." This ability was passed down to Catherine from her grandmother, along with her thick black braid and expressive eyes. One day, when a woman came to visit her grandmother, she began to comfort her. "What have you made up in your head? Your husband loves you, he's not cheating. Where did you get that idea?" Catherine moved closer, even closer, looked her grandmother in the eyes, and quietly said, "Why are you lying to her? Her husband is cheating with a red-haired woman. She wears blue shoes and constantly yells at people." Her grandmother looked at her granddaughter in surprise, but just then, the client burst into tears. "It runs in your family, doesn't it? Chloe, she's exactly as your granddaughter described. I knew they were having an affair." After that, her grandmother tried for a long time to convince the woman, "Your husband is faithful to you. My granddaughter just saw your thoughts. She's still inexperienced. She's only learning. But I see things as they really are. Trust me, everything is fine." The woman gradually calmed down and left. Her grandmother gave Catherine a stern look, but Catherine didn't feel the need to apologize. She knew she had told the truth. "So, you can see too?" her grandmother said thoughtfully. "It seems so. But you don't understand much. Never do that again. You saw the betrayal, but I see more than you. That woman was planning to take her own life. She loves her husband, and he loves her too. It's just that the devil led him astray. I saw that too. People don't come just for the bare truth, they come for solutions to their problems." Catherine sighed. "I'm sorry, Grandma, I almost ruined everything." "All right, come here, my little seer." From that point on, her grandmother helped Catherine develop her gift. People came to them, and Catherine, together with her grandmother, would say what she saw in each person. Of course, they used cards so as not to scare people with their supernatural abilities. That's how her youth passed. Then Catherine left for the city to study, got a diploma as a seamstress, married, and had a son. But soon, problems began. Her mother-in-law wouldn't let her live in peace, blaming her for all the troubles and trying to drive a wedge between her and her husband. She even often repeated that Catherine's son wasn't her husband's. Her husband waved off these accusations, but one day, her mother-in-law insisted on a paternity test. Soon, Jake was imprisoned, and her mother-in-law went mad with grief, blaming Catherine for being a bad wife and pushing her husband into this situation. Although Catherine had never interfered in her husband's affairs, she continued to support him, visiting him in prison and earning money to send him packages. One of the reasons for her mother-in-law's hatred was that Catherine had become a homemaker for Jake. Her husband was always well-groomed, well-fed, and the house was in perfect order. But her mother-in-law was convinced that a woman should work just like a man and still manage to do everything around the house. After Jake was imprisoned, Catherine began to go out to the square to support herself and her son. She tried to find odd jobs, but without official experience, it was difficult. Her mother-in-law grew more and more resentful every day. At one point, she even filed a petition to have her grandson sent to an orphanage. "It'll be better for him, and you'll pay for your actions," she proudly declared. Catherine couldn't take it anymore and burst into tears. "How can you do this? You raised Jake alone, stayed alone because my son was driven to prison," Catherine said, trying to hold back her tears. "He worked so hard to provide, and now you say I only cared about taking money from him. You sent your grandson to an orphanage. He'll grow up, find out everything, and never forgive you." "He's not my grandson," Dolores replied coldly, with malice. "I don't know where you got him from." There was so much malice in her words that Catherine didn't know how to cope with such an attitude. Depression overwhelmed her completely. It was hard for her to even get out of bed. But life had to go on. Catherine pulled herself together and started to establish a routine. In the mornings, she would get up, have coffee, and head to the square. All the money she earned went only for the essentials, paying for electricity, gas, food, and supporting Jake in prison. One day, Jake called her. "I'm sorry for my mom. I didn't know she would do this. When she told me she sent Taylor to an orphanage, I had a fight with her, and she said I was ungrateful." "Well, you know how she is, just the same as always." "You're not to blame," Catherine replied. "I'll make sure Taylor is returned, you'll see. But the social services said we need to make some repairs." The apartment where Catherine had once lived with Jake belonged to his mother, Dolores. When Jake was imprisoned, she kicked Catherine and her child out, and Catherine had to return to her small, semi-destroyed house. The house was old, the roof leaked, it had been abandoned for a long time. Catherine's grandmother had bought it when Catherine first went to study, but there were no funds to restore it. After hearing Catherine's situation, the social worker understood and was willing to help. She acknowledged that Dolores' claims were unfounded, but nonetheless, Catherine would need to do at least minimal repairs. Now Catherine worked in the square in any weather. Her good clothes were still at her mother-in-law's house, and she was terribly cold. The money given to her by one of the clients barely covered half of what she needed to earn. Ah, if only I could meet someone wealthier, she thought. Sometimes, wealthy men paid well if they saw that she could truly guess their secret thoughts and feelings. Some were even frightened by her words and thought that someone had sent her on purpose, either as a joke or for some benefit. Suddenly, in the crowd, she noticed a small boy walking with his father. The man was busy talking through wireless earbuds and didn't pay attention to his son. The boy saw Catherine, took a few steps toward her, and smiled. "Auntie, take these," he said, holding out his mittens. The mittens were hand-knitted, and it seemed like they had been made by the boy's mother or grandmother. Catherine was taken aback. Her hands were really cold. She couldn't believe the kindness of this stranger child. The boy stood there, smiling at her. At that moment, his father turned around. "Why are you standing there? Let's go." The man looked at Catherine and the mittens in her hands with disdain, but said nothing. He just grabbed his son by the hand and led him away. The boy kept looking back at Catherine, his gaze warm and full of sympathy. Catherine pondered, should she return the mittens to the boy? It seemed like he had asked her to keep them, and he had said something else as well. Holding the mittens in her hands, she felt something hard inside. Cautiously, with her thin fingers, she took out the contents and raised her eyebrows in surprise. It was a flash drive. "Wow," she muttered. Catherine looked around, hoping to find the boy, but he had already disappeared into the crowd. She hurried in the direction where she had last seen him, but soon realized it was hopeless to chase after them. There were too many questions. Why had he given her the mittens? Did he know about the flash drive inside, or had he just forgotten it by accident? Or maybe the boy was in trouble. Curiosity and worry took over her. Catherine quickly went home, still holding the mittens, which surprisingly fit her despite the boy's tiny hands. At home, she took out her old laptop, the one she had from her student days, turned it on, waited for it to load, and plugged in the flash drive. "So, what did you want to show me?" she muttered, looking at the screen. The flash drive contained files resembling bank account and safe deposit box details. She had seen something similar when she worked as a secretary in a company, but that was a long time ago, back in her student days. There was nothing else on the flash drive, nothing to grab onto to figure out who it belonged to or what to do with it. It wasn't until the evening of the next day that Catherine gathered her strength and went back out to the square. Almost immediately, a woman approached her, asking about the health of her husband. Catherine told her what she could see, and the woman paid her. Throughout the day, she had a few more clients who seemed to be specifically waiting for her. Rumors about the fortune teller from the square had begun to spread. She thought it might be a good idea to put up an advertisement with her phone number so people could find her more easily. Meanwhile, the frost grew stronger, and it became colder. At that moment, a young, drunken man with freckles, slanted eyes, and thick curls approached her. "Ah, girl, what a beauty," he smiled, but there was sadness in his voice. "You're all such beauties, and all so deceitful." Catherine felt that he wasn't dangerous, just in pain. He tried to grab her shoulder to keep himself from falling, but couldn't hold on and collapsed straight to the ground. "Sorry, I'll just lie here a bit, and then I'll get up," he mumbled with a slurred speech, but made no attempt to rise. Catherine understood that she couldn't leave him there. Sitting down next to him, she took his hand. In her mind, images of his recent past flashed: a beloved girlfriend, betrayal, arguments. He had endured, hoped, wanted to marry, even bought a ring, but she didn't want to hurt him anymore. She left, unable to take it, and he, losing his head in grief, got drunk, though this wasn't like him at all. Catherine sensed that he was a hard-working, respected person at the office. He had a kind and caring mother, and a younger sister whom he loved very much. Catherine shook her head. "No, I won't leave you here," she said quietly. "Let's go." "Where do you live?" "I'll help you get home," she added. The man didn't respond. Tears appeared in his eyes. Catherine realized that he didn't want to go home just yet. She helped him get up, took him to her place, took off his shoes, and laid him down on the couch. He instantly fell asleep. Catherine, herself, lay under the blanket in the room where her college friend used to stay when she visited. In the morning, the curly-haired man opened his eyes and saw her in front of him. "Where am I?" he asked. "I brought you here," Catherine replied. "Where exactly is this?" The man silently drank tea and sighed. "This is in the private sector. I live here." "Sorry for causing trouble. I'll leave now." "No worries," Catherine shrugged. He looked at her for a long time. She had her hair in a ponytail, and it suited her very well. Catherine looked good, even without any makeup or jewelry. "Why did you decide to save me? What's it to you? Some kind of personal interest?" he asked. Catherine rolled her eyes. "Yes. People used to be surprised when they encountered rudeness and lack of culture. But today, they are surprised when they see kindness and decency," she said thoughtfully. "I just wouldn't bring a strange man to my place in the middle of the night, especially not a drunk one." Catherine told him that she had been reading palms in the square, saw him, and felt his pain. "I don't believe in this nonsense," the guy said. Catherine immediately told him everything she had seen the day before, the breakup, the rings, and the mother and sister. "Sorry, but I still don't believe it." "How is that even possible?" "Well, there are a lot of things in the world that can't be explained." "I don't know, it just is." "By the way, I'm married," she added. Catherine told him about her situation. She wanted to share with someone. Since she had saved him, he could listen, hoping he wouldn't break down. She opened her soul to him, and he listened and sympathized. Catherine also mentioned the boy with the flash drive. They started talking. The guy said his name was Mitch. "I can look at the flash drive if you want," he offered. Catherine shrugged. "Will you help the boy, or is it just some nonsense?" Mitch looked through the contents of the flash drive, digging through the information for a long time. "The boy was about 8, right?" "Yeah, roughly." "He's dark-skinned, cute," she nodded. "There are invoices and codes for important bank accounts here. There are a couple of links, but to view them, you need the internet. I'll share mine." Mitch looked at the screen and continued. "Our boss, Robert Brown, went missing in the mountains, but everyone knows he didn't just disappear, he was taken out. There was clearly a mole in the company. I tried to figure it out, but after the boss was gone, they told me to stop looking into it, threatening that I could disappear too. Robert had a son, Alex, he's 8 years old. Now a family friend and Robert's bodyguard are looking after him. I think it was him who gave you the flash drive." Catherine listened to him, and Mitch continued digging through the files. Then he opened some links and read the documents for a long time. "Wow. What is it?" "I figured out who the mole was. It's a very powerful person. He was Robert's right-hand man, worked as his deputy in our company. Robert took him to all negotiations, and it seemed like Leon was helping us fight against the rival company. But according to these documents, the rival company actually belongs to him. A real shapeshifter. I never would have thought it. Mitch grabbed his head. Catherine sensed that he was scared. "Don't be afraid, everything will be fine," she said. Catherine didn't sense imminent death for him. On the contrary, bright events were waiting for him. What exactly, she couldn't quite understand, but she felt a lot of joy and love. "I'm sorry, but I just don't believe all this," Mitch said. Catherine shrugged. "You don't have to believe it. Are you okay with me making a copy?" "Of course. But where are you going to copy the information?" "I'm a programmer. I always carry a spare flash drive in my pocket. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to use it for my own benefit, but just in case, it's better to keep a copy." Mitch copied everything onto his own drive. They talked more about it, and then the guy left, taking the phone number of the woman who had saved him. "Just don't get involved in this, it's dangerous, okay?" "What did you say the deputy's name was?" Catherine asked. "Leon. You can read about him if you want. And let's decide what to do with the accounts on this flash drive. There are data about multi-million-dollar assets here. Essentially, you own them now. I suggest transferring everything to the boy, Mitch. They'll hardly find him. He's been missing for a while. If he were alive, they would have found him. Yeah, of course, you can make all the accounts personal for him, so he can live off that money." "Yeah, that's not difficult." Catherine spoke with Mitch for a long time. Together, they devised a plan. It seemed that Leon had done everything to bring Robert's company to ruin and force him into agreeing to a merger, after which Leon would become the owner of both major firms. Catherine learned that the issue of guardianship for Robert's son, Alex, was currently being decided. Robert's wife had refused to take the boy in, and there were rumors that she was seeing Leon. Alex wasn't her biological child. He was born from Robert's first marriage. Unfortunately, that wife died a few days after the birth of their firstborn. Robert mourned for a long time and eventually gave his heart to the first woman he met. That woman turned out to be Mia, who began living with him quite comfortably. Mia didn't want children, though, Mitch explained. He suspected she might have been involved in Robert's disappearance. If something had happened to Robert, they would have found him by now. And if he'd been kidnapped, they would have demanded a ransom 100 times over. He just disappeared, he reasoned. "Are you sure you want to get involved in all this?" Mitch asked. Catherine and Mitch had been communicating for over a week. Mitch had found a ton of compromising material on Leon using the files from the flash drive. Catherine, being an outsider, could help corner Leon. "You know, I tend to avoid facing my problems head-on," she said thoughtfully. "My husband is in prison, constantly asking for money. My mother-in-law sent my son to an orphanage, and I can't get him out of there. No matter what I do, nothing works. So, if I can help with something, with anyone, I'll be glad to," Catherine said. Gore smiled. "You know, they say that if a problem can be solved with money, then it's not a problem, it's just an expense. You help me, and I'll help you. Deal. Will you help me with some repairs? I'm afraid the social services will find something to nitpick again. They're probably being encouraged or bribed by my mother-in-law, I don't know. I'll help, I promise. And you'll help me, right? Deal. But why do you need this? You're a young professional, you'll find another job. You said yourself that this is dangerous. You know, Robert Brown was an example for me in business. He held lectures for us. I'm finishing my business degree and getting my higher education. I studied under him, and he noticed me, took me into his company, and arranged for me to switch to part-time study. Actually, they initially didn't want to give me free attendance, but he insisted. When my mother got sick, he paid for her surgery. She had a suspicion of cancer, and in order to prevent the disease from developing, surgery was necessary. It cost a lot of money, and thanks to him, my mother is alive and well now. So, Robert means a lot to me. He's a wonderful person, and I owe him so much. I even thought about taking his son into my care. He's rich, but very lonely. Robert was his only family. As for Mia, I won't even go there, mercenary. I understand. Well, then I'm definitely in. Helping a good person is sacred. The next day, Catherine arranged a meeting with Leon. He agreed to come, and she lied, saying that she represented a large company and had a lucrative offer for him. Catherine wore her best suit. Leon also showed up in an expensive suit, with a mustache under his nose. Catherine sized him up, and she felt uneasy. She saw that there had been several women in his life, and he had deceived all of them. They were all with him for the money, and they, in turn, had lied to him. His entire life was built on lies. This was his key trait that allowed him to skillfully take over the leadership of the company. Now, he was preparing to take Robert's place. Hello. Let's make this quick. I have another meeting today, he began. Catherine felt he was lying. He was just in a hurry to get home, where Robert's wife was waiting for him. Yes, of course, she smiled. I take it you're handling all of Robert Brown's company's affairs now? Yes, it's under my control. I have information that could cost you everything. You must know that there was a certain flash drive containing compromising material about you, from the dirty schemes in the company you've already taken over to threats against many people. I have data on concluded deals, on terrified people. Catherine paused and added. And let's not forget about the deal with the Japanese, and much more that I know. Catherine looked into Leon's eyes and saw that he was considering how to get rid of her. She felt uneasy and couldn't hide her terror. Her eyes betrayed her. Leon shifted into attack mode. So, what do you want from me? He asked. Excuse me, how should I address you? She replied, gathering herself and regaining control. Your price. You leave Robert's company, and I get $1 million. Of course, that's the price of my silence. When and where should I deliver the money? Will I get all the copies? He asked. Catherine shook her head. Of course not. I'll keep a few things for backup, but I won't use them. I know this concept might be foreign to you, but I'm an honest person. Leon nodded. All right, the money will be ready tomorrow. Allow me to escort you? Yes, of course. Should I accompany you? Catherine responded. She gave him an address in a remote part of the city, knowing that Mitch was following behind. But she was terrified. She could see that this man wasn't planning to let her go. Right now, her life hung by a thread. May I ask, Catherine, how did you come by this information? Leon asked. I won't tell you, she answered. In Leon's expensive car, it smelled of wood. Suddenly, the image of her grandmother flashed before her eyes. Her grandmother's eyes were filled with concern. Was this a vision, or had Catherine just remembered her beloved grandmother out of fear? Catherine thought that her grandmother would definitely be worried if she saw what her granddaughter had gotten herself into, but she would also be proud of her because it was her grandmother who had taught her that helping others was important. The car slowed down, a couple of kilometers short of the street Catherine had named. The road around them was desolate. At this time and in this weather, there was hardly anyone who would pass by. Catherine realized they were going to kill her. "Give me the flash drive if you want to live," Leon said seriously. Catherine obediently pulled out the copy she had brought to the meeting. "Is this it?" he asked. "No, of course not. There's more. Delete everything in front of me, and maybe we'll part ways peacefully. But I never want to see you again, anywhere. Do you understand?" Catherine shook her head. Leon pulled out a gun and pointed it at her. "Get out. You're going to make me bleed to death here," he said. Catherine stepped out calmly. "You'd better pay me," she said. "I wouldn't have gotten involved in your business otherwise. Why did you do this to Robert? Was there really a need to kill him? You want to know? Did you sleep with him or something? Well, I'll tell you before you die. You won't be able to tell anyone anything anyway. You have a very high IQ, right? Though like a duck, you won't even understand what that means with your chicken brain. I devise schemes in my head that will make me head of any company within 6 months. I can see through people." "So can I," Catherine said, glancing sideways. She noticed that Mitch's car had stopped quite far away. To save her, he would need time, and she began to stall. "I see that as a child, you were an unloved son. You were a coward, always. I see how women abandoned you one after another. I see how you were tortured in the army. And I see how you grew bitter and burned someone's house down, killing people. You visit their graves, and now, without hesitation or remorse, you're ready to kill me. But that doesn't really bother you, does it? What really worries you is that back home, a beautiful, slim brunette in a satin red dress is waiting for you." Leon's face twisted with fear. "Who are you? Who do you work for?" "No one knows," he shouted. "Why did you kill Robert?" "Because he wanted to ruin me, and I made sure he didn't come back from that expedition." "And who took him out? Who was the mastermind?" Leon began to tremble. He was scared of how much this stranger knew. He pulled the trigger, but Catherine shook her head. At that moment, Leon didn't lose consciousness, he only screamed in pain. "Mitch, we've been hit again." Catherine was scared and hugged Mitch. He pulled her close, and she only reached his shoulder with the top of her head. "It's okay, okay," she was frightened, nodded, and exhaled. "Call the police, and I'll take care of this guy in the meantime." Now, besides everything else, they had Leon's confession to the murder. The police arrived only half an hour later. Mitch explained everything, and Leon was just regaining consciousness. "So you say you were provoked?" asked the officer. "Are you saying the truth to prove involvement in Brown's disappearance?" "Why?" "He might file charges against you," Mitch said. "But he aimed a gun at me," Catherine replied. "It's all on tape, you'll see." "All right, let's go to the station, we'll sort this out," the officer said grimly. "San, no football today." They were dealing with the situation late into the night. Realizing he was cornered, Leon called his lawyer. He didn't speak at first, but the lawyer advised him to confess. Genuine remorse was the only thing that could ease his guilt. Moreover, the lawyer suggested he throw some of the blame on his accomplice. So the next morning, Mia was also taken into custody. A large investigation began. A couple of days later, Mitch visited Catherine at home. "This is for you," he handed her a small piece of paper. It had account details written on it. "What's this?" "It's Robert's details. He doesn't use it. The capital grows every month. He won't mind if you use this money to get your son." Also, you'll probably have to take Taylor too. You mentioned you were thinking of becoming Robert's bodyguard. But he's married and doesn't plan on taking the boy in. Robert's been gone for a while now, and the boy will be sent to an orphanage. I checked and found out what documents you need, so they'll give you the kids without any issues. They're about the same age, and it will be good for them to be together. Besides, you'll have this account if you don't mind, of course. And if you don't want it, that's okay. I'll try to take Alex in. I just thought you already have experience with this, and Catherine smiled. Yes, I really would like to, but the money isn't mine. I can't use it. You can, Mitch said. Just know, he would have wanted this. This money belonged to his son. He will grow up and use the account however he sees fit. Now the company is in turmoil. It has been decapitated twice. No matter how disgusting Leon was, he knew how to run business and negotiations. Robert wasn't wrong to keep him as his deputy. Well, we'll try to swim through this. Catherine twirled the piece of paper in her hands. Let's go get a few necessary documents. Mitch went to the Child Protection Services with her. Being somewhat knowledgeable about legal matters, he quickly put the bribed employees in their place. Yes, that's good, of course, but did you do the repairs? He asked. What repairs? The woman was surprised. Maybe you should ask if she cleaned the child's teeth before taking him from his mother, Mitch said. On what grounds? The woman hesitated. A complaint was filed, we responded, she began. The complaint was somewhat substantiated, and we will take this to court. If the boy doesn't go home today, not only will you lose your jobs, but you'll end up in prison. I won't accuse you of taking a bribe, Mitch continued. We're all adults here and understand that Catherine's mother-in-law paid for your actions. But you need to act in the best interests of the children. If the boy gets so much as a scratch during this time, you will be responsible and will face the full force of the law. I have plenty of lawyer friends. I'll make sure you end up in his shoes, alone in a women's prison surrounded by criminals like you. The woman paled and took the documents that Mitch had brought. Fine, take them, she said. That same day, Taylor was reunited with his mother. Catherine was overjoyed. That same day, she filed a petition to take Robert's son, Taylor, into her custody. The process began. Mitch spent the rest of the day with Catherine and Taylor. They spent time together like a real family. At the end of the evening, Catherine thanked him for everything and kissed him on the cheek. Mitch hugged her and asked, "Will we see each other tomorrow?" "Come by, I'm always happy to see you," Catherine replied. Meanwhile, Jake was in prison. He kept asking for money, complaining that his mother wasn't helping him and wasn't calling. "You're right, yes. But we can still talk like friends," Catherine replied. "That's not enough for me," he said. Catherine lowered her eyes. "I can't betray someone who's in prison right now. That would be wrong." "Fine, friends it is," Mitch replied. Catherine decided to visit her husband in prison. She went there without calling ahead, wanting to surprise him, and brought some money. But when she arrived, they told her that there was no inmate by that name. "What do you mean? I've visited him here so many times." "What are you talking about?" Catherine exclaimed, confused about what was happening. "He's not here," the guard replied. "He last came a couple of weeks ago, I think, with his wife. A beautiful blonde." "I'm his wife," Catherine blurted out in shock. She couldn't believe the news. Catherine found the arrest record for her husband and took the document to the relevant authorities. "There's no such case," they told her. This is a fake document, a forgery. Actually, that's punishable by law. Where did you get this from? Catherine sighed. My husband gave it to me, said he was in prison, but apparently he's somewhere else. After that, Catherine went to the office where Jake worked, but no one had heard anything about any trial. He had simply quit. The staff was sure that Jake had just divorced and gotten involved with some young woman. He wrote to me recently, said he's relaxing in Turkey now. Here, he sent me some pictures, Catherine said. She looked at the screen of her former husband's colleague's phone. There, he was with some beautiful woman. Please send me that picture, Catherine asked through tears. She went to her mother-in-law's house and showed her the photo. Did you know? Were you in on this too? How could you? What are you talking about? Jake couldn't have done that, the mother-in-law replied. So he lied to me too? I was always sending him money, and he told me that you weren't helping him, that you weren't visiting, that you abandoned him, that you set him up. So he was living off the money we were sending him with some. Catherine sighed. So, it's all clear now. I'm filing for divorce. I've already taken the child out of the orphanage. If you show up in our lives again, don't say I didn't warn you. Don't come near us again. Taylor knows it was you who sent him to the orphanage, and he won't miss you. And it looks like you have a new daughter-in-law now. Catherine slammed the door. She was about to listen to another angry tirade, but blocked her mother-in-law's number and filed for divorce that same day. In the evening, Mitch called. How was your day? He asked. I don't even know where to start, Catherine replied, then recounted everything that had happened. Mitch whistled in surprise. So, you're free now? He smiled. Catherine answered. Come over. Catherine got herself together and was brushing her long hair in front of the mirror when Mitch walked in. She opened the door, and he was standing there with flowers. Quiet, Taylor's asleep, Catherine said. They quietly walked to the kitchen, where they drank delicious tea, talked about everything under the sun, and couldn't stop chatting. How's the search for Robert going? Catherine asked. Now that they knew where he had disappeared, the search had resumed. Since that evening, Mitch had been a regular visitor at Catherine's house. Soon, she took Taylor in as well. Taylor accepted him as family. Do you remember me? Catherine asked during their first meeting. By that time, the boy had already spent a week in the orphanage. I remember, he replied. I gave you mittens. Catherine took them out of her pocket and handed them to him. Yes, here they are. Thank you, I kept them for you. And the flash drive? My dad gave it to me the day before he disappeared. Did you find him? Catherine shook her head. Sorry. Not yet. But because of this information, they are looking for him now. Will they find him? The boy asked. I don't know. But now you definitely won't be living in an orphanage. You'll be with me. Okay. The boy became talkative. Mom never took care of me. Mia never really considered herself my mother, no matter how much I reached out to her. Now Alex found it difficult to get close to people. It seemed that everyone left and betrayed him. The adaptation started with a board game, which they played peacefully. We didn't even finish the cartoon. It was so great. I always dreamed of having a big family. But my mother-in-law was against me having a second child. Jake didn't care. You know, I expected everything from him, but not this. Why couldn't he just say he found someone else? Act like a husband, pay alimony, but he wanted to be supported. He didn't even hesitate to lie to his own mother. Maybe it was him who told her that you were to blame for him being sent to prison. Maybe he also convinced her to send Taylor to the orphanage. Yeah, maybe that's how it was. He had a friend who worked in prison. I almost forgot, Catherine said. You know, I never would have thought he was like this. He just threw me away. Let's not talk about bad things, Mitch said. It's all behind us now. He kissed her and hugged her tightly. Just how she wanted. She sighed happily. Just think about how much her life had changed in just a few weeks. It all started with kind acts. She helped a drunk man not freeze to death, and then decided to help a child whose father had gone missing. Catherine thought about all this while pressing herself tightly to Mitch's warm chest. The next day, the long-awaited phone call came. Mitch went out and talked about something for a long time, and when he returned, he pulled Catherine aside and said, "They found him, alive." That's all Catherine asked. "Yes," Mitch replied. "He was pushed off a cliff." At that time, 2 people were passing by, a hermit family. They live at the foot of the mountain. The elderly gather herbs to earn a living and eat what they grow themselves. They raise livestock. Robert is very weak and cannot walk. He's been treated with herbs in the old way this whole time. It seems like his spine is broken or damaged, I'm not sure. They're now flying him by helicopter to a private clinic. I'll take care of transferring the money from his accounts for payment. Tell Alex, Mitch added. I'm not sure. What if he doesn't last long? Who knows in what condition he is now? Still, there will be a funeral, and the son will be there. Talking about this was extremely difficult. All right, tell him, I'm leaving. I'll call when we know more. The boys spent the whole day making plans for how they would live when Alex's father recovered. He was telling stories about how they had a real movie theater at home, a swimming pool, a remote-controlled car like the adults, but a child's version, a true paradise for a kid. A week passed. Mitch and Catherine were sitting in front of the TV in the evening, lazily eating pizza with tea. Robert's having surgery tomorrow. He really asked for you to come. I told him how you helped with everything, and he said he wants to make you Alex's godmother. They haven't baptized him yet. Why not? Catherine asked, surprised. Mitch smiled. Well, before, Leon spent a few hours with him, talking about how he lived without him, how he missed him. Father and son really missed each other and couldn't stop talking. Catherine had been working in the square that day. She now knew for sure that she could no longer count on anyone. Her mother-in-law and ex-husband hadn't shown up in her life anymore. She wasn't planning to file for child support. She'd survive, raise the child herself. After dinner, they went together to wash the dishes. The boys were peacefully snoring in the bedroom. Who's the girl in the photo? Mitch asked, noticing a small picture next to her late grandmother's portrait. That's my sister. Mom gave her up for adoption. She said that at that time, she didn't want children, gave birth to her, and left her in the orphanage. Then she met my dad, and I was born. Back then, she was focused on getting an education and didn't have time for children. She understood that. So, you've never met her? Catherine shook her head. The girl in the photo seemed familiar to Mitch. Do you look alike? He asked. Yes, my grandmother used to say the same. She really scolded my mom for doing that and wanted to find her, but she couldn't. She thought she would have abilities too. It's a shame it turned out this way. By the way, if you want, I can run the photo through a facial recognition program. That would be nice. But you won't believe it, I already know that the sister is no longer alive. I can feel it when I hold her photo." Mitch shook his head. "Well, if it turns out to be true, I'll probably believe it. Honestly. Although I've always been convinced that there's no such thing as telepathy." The next day, Catherine and Mitch went to support Robert. He asked not to bring Taylor so that it wouldn't look like a farewell. They hadn't told him that the surgery was today, so the boy wouldn't worry. That was enough for him. When Catherine saw Robert, she smiled. This was exactly how she imagined him, a middle-aged, light-haired man, attractive. "So, this is the one who saved me. And you're even more handsome than Mitch described," he said. Catherine smiled. She stepped closer and felt so much pain, honesty, and principles in him, deep loneliness, and depression. His son, that was all that had kept him in this world for a long time. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Tell me, how will the surgery go?" Robert tried to smile. Catherine took his hand, but immediately jerked it back. Mitch and Robert frowned. "What's wrong?" Robert asked. "I'm going to die today," Robert panicked. Catherine shook her head. "The surgery will go well. You will walk again." "What was your first wife like, Alex's mother?" Robert looked at her in surprise. "She was a cook." "What was her name?" "Sarah. When I married her, I became brown." "Do you have a photo of her?" Mitch was confused, wanting to pull her away. Why did she start with this nonsense? He didn't believe in her abilities, thinking of her as just a good psychologist. Robert searched his phone and showed her a picture. Catherine nodded and silently handed the phone to Mitch. The woman in the photo was the same one he had seen on the picture on the wall. She was older, but it was undoubtedly her. The mole above her lip confirmed it. "Wow," Mitch said. "How did you know this?" Catherine shook her head. "Well, just like that, after everything that happened to them." He still didn't believe her. "Could someone explain what's going on?" Robert asked. "This is my sister." Catherine told him the whole story of how they were separated. "Sarah never told me she had a sister. So, she didn't know. I stayed with my parents, and she was given up for adoption." "What a twist. Looks like you're Alex's aunt." "That's amazing." It's nice when you have someone close. Because, if something happens to me." "Don't worry, nothing will happen," Catherine interrupted him. A few hours later, that's exactly how it turned out. Smiling, the elderly doctor walked out of the operating room. Mitch stayed there until the end, while Catherine went to see the kids. She already knew how it would end, while Mitch sat, bewildered, wondering how she could think that way. There must have been something to her after all. Robert was recovering quickly. Catherine and Alex visited him every day while he was in the clinic. Meanwhile, Mitch was actively managing his company's affairs. He and Catherine didn't separate. Mitch kept asking her to move in with him, but Catherine wouldn't agree. "It's just not convenient. I have 2 kids, and you have a bachelor's apartment. Let's leave you with a place where you can go and be alone after our little madhouse," she would say. "You're pure gold. I feel like I don't deserve you." When Robert recovered, Alex went back home. For a while, Catherine allowed Taylor to stay overnight with Robert so that the boys wouldn't be too lonely without each other. Then everything settled down. The apartment wasn't exactly huge, but there was enough room for everyone. Besides, it had an amazing view from the window. "I'll name you, Mitch. Tomorrow I'm going back to work. I hope you'll come. I heard how you fought for that deal with the Turkish agency." Thanks to you, the company kept developing. Oh, stop. It was Leon's efforts that almost sank it, but we're not going down. I want you to be my deputy. Let's see how you work, and in a couple of months, I'll make you a co-owner. As for Leon's company, you don't need to worry anymore. He called me from prison recently and offered to give it to us. He quoted a ridiculously low price. If we have those assets, I'll probably buy it. No more competition, it's time to merge. Bold decision. And you don't need to worry about the accounts. Everything was almost immediately intact. She ensured the boys were taken care of without taking any money from there, and what she did take, she returned right away. Well, that was a mistake, she should have used it. You've got to repay somehow. She wouldn't take the money. Well, then, not with money. Think about it, Mitch, and tell me. I don't want to be in debt. She'll hardly accept a material thank you. Besides, she'll say you're not a stranger. Robert hired her, and now she worked alongside Mitch. They were together both at home and in the office. Mitch was very grateful for this. He was overjoyed. He loved her with all his heart, and she was also happy that the person she loved was nearby, ready to help and guide her. In the end, she adapted quickly to the new environment. A year later, they had a grand wedding, and a few weeks after that, Catherine found out she was pregnant. The ultrasound showed it was a girl.